what leadership looks like. Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. And let's talk about Senator Chris Van Hollen and his trip to El Salvador, where he was able to finally successfully meet with Abrego Garcia. And so Senator Van Hollen came back and gave a long press conference, and I wanted to sort of go over the press conference with you, where he reported that Abrego Garcia, he tried to meet with Abrego Garcia the first day. He said he couldn't, according to the vice president of El Salvador. The second day, he went to CICOT, and he was stopped by the military, who said that they didn't have permission to go any further. But then, before Senator Van Hollen was going to take the flight back to the United States, call came from the embassy saying that there would be a meeting with Abrego Garcia at that hotel where Senator Van Hollen was staying. Now, that's important in a we'll see why that's important. So, Abrego Garcia said that he was traumatized being there. He wasn't fearful of the 25 or so people he was with in his cell, but he was fearful of prisoners in other cell blocks who called out to him and taunted him in various ways. So, 9 days ago, Abrego Garcia was moved from CICOT to a detention center in Santa Ana, which was better conditions than CICOT, but still had no access to the outside world, no ability to communicate with his lawyers, and the senator was his first communications. Abrego Garcia said that he had committed no crimes, and then when asked what he would like other than being freed from this hellhole, he said he wanted to talk to his wife. Senator Van Hollen then went on to address the various ways in which this administration and MAGA, Donald Trump's administration and MAGA, are trying to spin the issue, saying that anybody who goes and meets with these people and call for their return are anti-gang violence. And that's not true, because it is not an issue of gang violence, it's an issue of due process. And so the senator gives us an accounting of his record in countering gang violence, and he says that if you really think that Abrego Garcia is part of the MS-13 gang, then you present that evidence in court and not on social media and press conferences. The government has thus far provided no evidence, according to Judge Sinis, Senator Van Hollen says, and they called it an administrative error and deprived him of his personal freedom and liberty. And despite SCOTUS's order, Donald Trump's administration has flouted that order and has done nothing, because when asked by Senator Van Hollen at the embassy whether there had been any other communication from the administration to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return, they said no, that they had not received any information about that. Now, a bit of the propaganda part that he wanted to talk about was the 2 margarita glasses that were put in front of Senator Van Hollen and Abrego Garcia in the middle of the interview. And the glass with Garcia that was given to Garcia had a little bit less liquid in it than the one given to Senator Van Hollen. Senator Van Hollen confirmed that neither one of them drank at all from those glasses, and also that that was sort of and that's when Bukele took the picture to create the pretense of, oh, look, somebody's having margaritas and what the conditions are not at all, talking about the prison of torture and all of that. Well, it was a staged event But the reason why that staged event doesn't work is because both those glasses were rimmed with either salt or sugar, and both those glasses, even Abrego Garcia's, which seemingly had less of that liquid in it, inferring that he had taken a drink from it, still had all of the sugar and salt rim on it. If you drink from that glass, what's on the rim will go away. But that wasn't the case. And Senator Van Hollen really brought that up to clearly show us the propaganda that Bukele is propagating and helping Donald Trump in perpetuating this fallacy versus the truth that they are in prisons that outside people cannot reach, which is an international law violation. So he said that there's, the people in El Salvador said that there was no crime for which he was being held, that he was being held by the U.S. government because the U.S. government was paying them. And the chance to meet him was the first step to ultimately bringing him home, as the Constitution requires, the senator says. He said that Abrego Garcia said that he was okay. He had seen a doctor for a short examination because of his blood pressure issue. Senator Van Hollen reiterated how staged the whole thing was, the interview was, because they initially wanted the interview to happen by the side of the pool, giving the idea that everything was hunky-dory, but it wasn't. The embassy has gotten nothing from the White House about facilitating as the Supreme Court has ordered. So currently, Donald Trump is in defiance of the Supreme Court's order and of Judge Sinis's order, which he has now appealed to the Fourth Circuit, and the Fourth Circuit has come out against him and has refused to stop the lower court's proceedings. So, what Senator Van Hollen went on to say was that he believes that Bukele buckled under the pressure because he was feeling the pressure of the media, because there were two major press conferences and local media was present there, and it was getting out that this was happening, and not a lot of people in El Salvador presumptively knew about it. So Bukele finally buckled and gave Senator Van Hollen the opportunity to meet with Abrego Garcia. The senator was asked about a family member who was killed in Maryland by an MS-13 gang member. The senator replied by saying that you cannot conflate the two issues, because the criminal in the crime that they were talking about in that question is being held accountable under the laws of the United States. Whereas here in Abrego Garcia's case, he was not afforded due process of law to begin with. We knew before that the government of El Salvador was getting money from Donald Trump. Senator Van Hollen says that it is $15 million to detain the prisoners. So it's a contract. To date, they have paid out $4 million. Senator says that he hasn't seen an agreement, but there was some document that memorializes the payment, but does not know if it spells out the details of why the payment was being made. So it goes to the heart of the contract and what was contracted to. So, Senator Van Hollen definitely says that the $15 million was not authorized by Congress, and so Senate can and will look into that because that money was not appropriated. So, right now, Donald Trump is in open defiance of the Supreme Court, and the question is whether Republicans will stand up and push back and tell Donald Trump to follow the Supreme Court's order. The senator believes that El Salvador is making a huge mistake because they're branding themselves by these huge prisons where people are warehoused and there's no outside communication in violation of international law. So why would people want to travel to El Salvador? Why would people want to invest in El Salvador? And so these are the ways in which El Salvador and El Salvadorians need to think about becoming a nation that houses illegally detained people who have not received due process of law. I don't think that that's how El Salvador would like the world to see it. So, because for now, they're being complicit in Donald Trump's illegal actions, are being paid off. And they're being paid off by Donald Trump. And is that the legacy that El Salvador wants? So I think that this press conference, his travel there, and his success with meeting Mr. Abrego Garcia and then communicating to us the larger premise of where this is happening, how this is a defiance of Supreme Court, and what the propaganda machines are trying to conflate, but our media and others have, other people have not been able to properly articulate. And the senator gave a 40-minute press conference where he answered questions and told everything that he had to tell about his visit and his meeting with Abrego Garcia. And there was a sign standing behind him that said, "This is what leadership looks like." And so I took the title of this episode from that, saying what leadership looks like. To take the initiative to go out there, to put pressure on the government of El Salvador is not an easy task. To be able to rile up enough pressure so that Bukele wants to, allows the meeting and tries to create a propaganda around it, but clearly here, Senator Van Hollen has dispelled that and sort of made a joke out of what Bukele tried to do. And I commend Senator Van Hollen for all of his actions. I look forward to his actions, to seeing why and how that money of $15 million was sent to El Salvador without being appropriated by Congress. And I expect the senator to fully follow through on making sure that Abrego Garcia is brought back to the United States. With that said, thank you for listening. Go check out his interview. It's on YouTube through ABC, through Associated Press. Associated Press has the longest, the biggest, the full interview. So you can go watch the Associated Press video if you just go to the Associated Press YouTube channel. So please like, share, and subscribe, and share this information with others so we know where we are in the Abrego Garcia case, not just in the courts, but also in real life and what is going on, you know, like confirming that, yeah, it's a contract, confirming, yeah, that he's okay and he's alive, letting us know that he's now in a different better conditions prison, and sort of that brings some closure to the people who are fighting for his return. And I believe that it gives the rest of us the energy to move forward with pushing for his return, the return of people like Andrew Romero and Merwil Gutierrez, and we're going to hear stories about so many others in the coming days. I'm confident of that. So keep your eyes open, fight for these people, add your voice to bringing these people back and giving them due process of law. No one is saying set them free. They are afforded due process of law. Then you get to decide what happens to them. Due process of law determines whether there is any evidence that they have committed any crimes or whether they are here in the United States illegally or not. Which Abrego Garcia was not, because he met with ICE once a year because of his protected status to update the officer of what he was up to, where he was working. So he is in the United States legally. He needs to be brought back and he needs to be restored to his place where he was before the government upended his life, and so many others with him. With that said, thank you, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.